Hello everyone, Daniel Kerr here. I am in Sedona with my family. I just got done eating at the Merkin Vineyard tasting room, the Merkin tasting room and the restaurant there, which is owned by Maynard James Keenan of Tool, Perfect Circle, Pacifier. Anyway, it was an interesting experience. The food there was amazing. I had a glass of mead that was incredible. A lot of people have been talking to me lately about the economy and talking about how bad the economy is. I see people online waxing about the state of the economy and this and that. You have to understand a few things. The economy in the United States and in the Western world is the best economy that mankind has ever seen. Currently, right now, 2026, May 2026, it's almost to June. The economy has never been better in the history of the world. Now, the reason why everyone thinks that the economy is so bad is because they're looking at things like the price of groceries and the cost of living, the price of rent, the price of gasoline, etc. In reality, the prices of things don't really fluctuate. What fluctuates is the value of a currency, and our currency was designed to fail. It was designed to devalue over time. I'm 51 years old. There hasn't been a single year in my lifetime where the currency was worth more the following year than it was the previous year. It's never gone up. There's a lot of wind here. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Anyway, the currency was designed to fail, and the reason why the currency is designed to fail is because it's the best way for a state wealthy elite to keep their wealth in their pockets and to ensure that people are unable to accrue wealth over time. And that kind of goes for savings, etc. If I was to save $1 in 1960, that would be just a few cents today. So it doesn't matter what happens. You put things into these accounts like Roth IRAs or other investment accounts, and they increase in value over time. The S&P 500, for instance, has gone up about 25% consistently over the last few years. I would say historically since the 1970s, maybe 10 or 12%, and that seems like a lot. Over time, you got compound interest, and it's building value and building value, but in reality, the currency that it's based on is devaluing, and you find that the purchasing power of what you invested then is about the same as it is now. The wealthy, they invest in other things. They don't look at the value of a fiat currency or any currency. Even when the currency was backed by gold, it still devalued. And what happens is they put their investments into other things. They put their investments into real estate holdings, or they put their investment into businesses, right? Acquisitions. They put their investment into the businesses and industries, okay? And they put their investments into these things so that they literally increase in value and not just stay the same. Now, if you ask anyone what is the most valuable thing in the world, people have various answers, but there is one substance, gold, which has set the standard for value for 10,000 years. And so gold, really, we can say that the price of gold is up or the price of gold is down, but really the price of gold is pretty solid, pretty consistent, and doesn't really fluctuate that much. And what fluctuates is the value of the currency that gives the gold its conditional value. Okay, so we say that the price of gold today is $4,541 an ounce. Okay, that's a lot, but in reality, our currency is devalued so much. That just means our currency is not as valuable as it once was, even a couple years ago. Now, there are many things in our culture and in our society that has like safety buffers, and so it doesn't seem like our dollar has devalued that much in comparison to inflation, what we call inflation, right? It's really deflation of currency value. Nonetheless, we, especially in the United States, have these safeguards that keep people from feeling the effects of the devaluation of currency. Gasoline prices, for instance, are controlled by speculators, by oil company speculators, and it's interesting because I remember 10, 15 years ago when the cost of gas per gallon was up close to $5, more than it is now. In some places, it's been higher than $5. Where I lived, it's pretty consistent, consistently low prices. Right now, it's about $4.60 where I'm at here in Sedona. Because the gasoline prices fluctuate all over the place, people have a tendency to blame it on the president or these things. No president has ever had any bearing in the value of a currency. Some certain decisions can be made that it seems like affect the global and United States U.S. economy significantly, and you can be traced back to the decision of a president or an administration. But in reality, there are higher ups than the president, and they decide what's going to happen. And the president either goes along with it, or if they don't consistently go along with it, then they end up like Lincoln or JFK, however. Let's take the value of the price of gold. Now, I went backwards. We've been told that our parents could buy a home on their living wage, and they could buy a home very easily. And now today, millennials, Gen Alpha, even some Gen X are unable to buy homes. Really, boomers were the last ones who were able to easily buy a home. And now the purchase of a home lies outside of the reach of most young people. In reality, homes have never been easier to buy now than they are now. Never in history. Especially when you compare them with the cost and the price of gold. Now, practically, this doesn't seem the case, and the reason why is because people are adhering to the old trading hours for dollars wages standard. Using that model, my parents were more easily able to purchase a home. The reason for that is because wages were higher then, because the consumer class was more valuable and more desirable. In the history of mankind, there never really was a long-term experiment with democracy. I realize that since Plato, the idea of democracy has been on the table and people have discussed it in a theoretical level, and it has been implemented in certain cultures for certain periods of time throughout history. However, it wasn't until the rise of industrialism, right? We have an industrial revolution. Suddenly all this new technology was upon us, and there were industrialists who wanted to suck wealth from the common person, from the slave class. And so they created consumerism, which required that we create democracy. We created what we call a free market system so that the rich could suck money from the poor, and democracy and elections and a voting system was just fake, something that was designed to keep the slave class feeling like they had some sort of control over the system or over their lives. In reality, it was just so that people would earn money, right? Trade their livelihood of hours and the best years of their life for productive value, and they would trade that for certain things, and they were allowed to consume and consume and consume. As a result, we live in the apex of human history regarding standard of living. Our parents, they may have been able to work a job and buy a home easier than we can or our kids can, but their lives were not better. They lived a very low standard of living. They worked their fingers to the bone. All kinds of atrocities were commonplace in culture during that time. They did not have it better. We have it better. Now, if you go back to 1945 and you look up what the average house cost in 1945 was, it's between $4,900 and $10,000. You can say that the average cost of a house in 1945 was $7,000. At that time, gold was $35 an ounce. So it took 200 ounces of gold to purchase a house in 1945. And gold, again, is the standard for value. Now, you can say, if you go to 2024, which was kind of like the apex of the housing cost, in 2024, the average cost of a home was $360,000, and the price of gold in 2024 ranged from, I think, $2,390 to $2,600 at the end of the year. You can safely say that it averaged $2,500. And so, in 2024, it only took 144 ounces of gold to buy a home. That is a 33% or 36% difference. It was easier in 2024 to buy a home than it was in 1945. 200 ounces of gold versus 144. Now, we could say, in 1945, we're in the middle of World War II, the economy is suffering. Let's go forward to 1953. In 1953, the average cost of a home was $9,600, okay? However, at that point, the quality of housing had changed quite a bit. The median cost of a home was $18,000, and that is a lot closer to what we're looking for as far as an average. If you take the average median house cost of $18,000 in 1953 versus the price of gold per ounce, which was $35 still. It was set because of a treaty. The price of gold was set in stone during that time. So $35 ounces of gold. It took 514 ounces of gold to buy a home in 1953, meaning it was far, far, far harder. All right. But even if you take the $9,600, $9,500 average cost of a home in 1953, it still took 271 ounces of gold to buy a home. So it was way, way, way harder than in 2024, if you go by that standard. Now, I realize there are some problems with looking at it this way, and I'll get to that in a moment, but let's take 1985. Let's go up to 1985. See, all of the things I just mentioned happened before I was born, so I can't really relate, but I can relate to 1985. I turned 11 years old in 1985, and I remember it being just this prosperous time in American history, and many people look back on the 80s as just being the golden years, the wonder years of their life. I am one of those people. In 1985, the average cost of a home was $100,800. The cost of gold in 1985 was $317, which means that in 1985, which was the golden years in the 1980s, the golden years of American history in my lifetime, it took 315 ounces of gold to buy a home. Again, 2024 took 144 ounces of gold. Now, in 2026, right now, the average cost of a home in the United States is $375,000. I know that there are houses in Albuquerque where I live in very, very good neighborhoods, nice houses, 3 and 4 bedroom houses for about $300,000 or even a tiny bit less. You have to shop for some of these, but nonetheless, the national average is $375,000. Today, the price of gold per ounce is $4,541 per ounce, which means that today, May 2026, it only takes 82.6 ounces of gold to buy a house. That is unprecedented ease. Now, the value of gold may have stayed the same. The currency devalues. It causes the perceived value of gold to go up and down. The problem with this is that wages have not increased. But the people who control our economy, the people who are responsible for making you look at wages and saying words like inflation instead of devaluation of currency, the ones that don't want you to realize, even though you've witnessed it with your own eyes and in your own experience for years and years, they don't want you to realize that currency is built to devalue. They set the standard for the standard of living inside of a westernized country, including the United States. They also set these trends where they try to push the population into certain directions. The trading your hours, wages for working a job for wages paradigm is on the wane. In 1945, the average annual income was $1,400, okay? That means that to get the average home, that was about 5 years worth of wages. Now, we've glamorized that period to think that it was a lot easier back then, but 5 years of back-breaking work. Long hours in the factory, long hours in the field. We're talking about jobs that really nobody alive today has to even deal with because of the advances in technology, the advances in safety standards. In 1953, the average annual wage was $4,000. So only 4.5 times the annual wage, 4.5 years worth of wages to get the highest end median house, which was $18,000. That's a little bit better than 1945, but not much. In 1985, the average annual wage was $16,882, which means that it took 6 times your annual wage to get a home. In 2024, the average wage was $70K, right? A lot of people, it seems, are making less than $70K, but the average wage is $70K, and it takes 5.14 times the annual wage to get the average home. Very consistent with 1945. 2026, the average wage is $62,000, which has gone down quite a bit since in 2 years, and it takes 5.6 times the annual wage to get the average home. The thing is, we live in an incredible standard of living. The homeless people in the United States today live a higher standard of living than the royalty did in the 16 and 1700s. At no point in the United States, in no location or at no time can you be in a grave, deadly medical emergency and not be transported with no cost to you to an emergency room and have professional physicians work on you and surgeons to save your life, for one thing. We have all kinds of resources for people, and I'm not trying to say that, I'm not trying to downplay the plight of people who are living on the streets or whatever. My father worked his fingers to the bone, and in 1985, if he wanted to start a business, it would cost him $10,1985, which is about $23,000 today, and he probably would lose everything. The barrier for entry to own a business in the 1980s was staggeringly high. There were no ways to market anything. We're talking about television, newspaper ads, television commercials, magazine ads, billboards, tens of thousands of dollars a month. Basically, nobody could start a business if they wanted to. It was very, very difficult. Today, I can start a business online for $0 and I can market it to thousands of people for free on the very same day. There has never been in the history of mankind a better time to make a living or to make a fortune than right now in westernized countries. I realize that there are places in the world where people don't have it as good as me. I recognize my privilege. Yes, I'm an American. The thing is, the economy is booming. You just have to take your face out of the news, take your face off the screen. You got to get out of the social media feeds and other people's opinion. You got to stop paying attention to whoever's in the presidential office or whatever. Stop paying attention to naysayers who talk about the economy, about terrible, terrible tragedies and things that are going on around the world. And definitely don't invest in this fake two-party team sports politics crap, because none of it means anything to you. None of it makes any difference. I was out this morning walking my dog. I looked at the sky. I could not tell who the president was. My dad, in order to make $100 at his time, my dad, in order in the 1980s to make $1,000, what I consider $1,000 today, it took him days and days of work at a full-time job in order to make that amount of money. Today, I can get online and I can work 4 to 6 hours online and I can make $1,000 and I can create evergreen products that just continue to produce and produce and produce for years. I sold things today online. I heard the cha-ching when I was at lunch. Online, while I was at lunch, I sold things that I created 10 years ago. All right, virtually no overhead. There has never been a time in history when it's been easy to do this. All right, so that's the end of it. Basically, that's my rant. The economy is booming. The economy is perfect. I have changed my focus of my life, and I've decided to try to help people. I've decided to help people that I know and people that I don't know start online businesses and start to produce repeatable, reliable online income month after month. No matter who you are, you can start a business online. You can hit me up at daniel@10kplatform.com and introduce yourself, and I will help you actualize your business goals. If you go to 10kplatform.com and you opt in to the email list, you'll see two places on that small one-page landing page. Just put your email in and hit the submit. You will get a path to $1,000 online blueprint. And it's laid out. It's about 9 pages. It's detailed, but I also put an explanatory video in there where I explain every single step. That alone is very, very valuable. There is no cost to you and no pressure to buy anything. Just go there, get on the list, and get your blueprint. I'm going to go enjoy my family. Everybody else, enjoy your impending summer. Be blessed.